Ladies and gentlemen, I've been gone for 2 days. Took off most of the time. But boy, I tell you, wild horses couldn't drag me away. I've been researching quite a bit, and we are in the middle of incredible history right now. Let me just try to be calm here and then tell you what's coming up in this devastatingly important first hour of the broadcast that no one needs to miss. It's essential. The globalists are launching a worldwide planetary destabilization program to collapse Western nations using weaponized third world populations in countries they've already collapsed by design. This is all declassified, admitted. There's major resistance forming all over the planet and counter-striking. Globalism in its current system is in major death throes, but attempting to claw back victory from the grave. I said last week that the Democrats were going to crescendo level, calling for civil war, in their words, violence, burning down government buildings, killing the president, kidnapping his son, raping him. People are getting shot at, attacked, killed, record arrest of people trying to kill Republicans. You've heard the clips. Surround the White House with a million people, overthrow Trump, full-page ads, New York Times, Michael Moore. So much of it, I can't even keep track of it. I spent an hour this morning just search engineing the last week of them calling for civil war. And why is that so important? Because they're such deceivers. They came out in hundreds of publications yesterday, major publications, and said, Jones said there was going to be a civil war and shooting and death in the streets on July 4th. It didn't happen. No, in the video they showed, I simply pointed out that I see July 4th as a demarcation line with their chatter intensifying of when we look back in history, we'll see this as the period in the summer of 2018, the summer of rage, that launched into a potential civil war. And I see it as the demarcation line that they are announcing that they're launching it. I mean, heavens. I'm the one popularizing the last 2 years they're planning this since he was president-elect. And now it was in hundreds, USA Today, Reuters, everywhere last week, saying we are in a civil war. That's USA Today. America is headed to a civil war? No, we're already in it, it says. USA Today, we are in a civil war. I say, well, I think we're in a soft civil war, but the Democrats intend to go into overdrive by August. They're saying it. They're announcing it. You know, your enemy's announcing, we will launch the civil war and surround and overthrow them. Target all Republicans. Hit them in the head. Burn their houses down. Here's where they live. I've experienced the physical attacks. I've experienced them throwing beverages on me and knocking my drinks over at restaurants and saying, we hate your family. F your family. And then 2 gay guys trying to start a fight with my son at the airport, flying back from Colorado a few months ago. I mean, they were pretty big guys, too, but they were saying threatening things to me. I just laughed them off. But then as soon as I turned my phone off, I've got the video, they go over to get him because he'd already got his bags and was leaving. Said, you want some? You want some? To a 15-year-old person. What cowards. And over the week, especially on July 4th, people were beaten up, drugged by vehicles, attacked, drinks thrown on them, their hats torn away, punched in the head, houses vandalized. Boom! July 4th, boom! It just jumped, just like I said, exactly. But then, how do they grab the fact that we're right and turn it into a defeat? They go, Jones claimed the North versus the South would line up again in all the articles and show Confederate soldiers versus blue, saying I said that was going to happen, as if their readers are so dumb that I'm saying it's the Civil War of the 1860s, not the new Civil War we're in that's global against globalism. See how dumb they think you are? It's all coming up straight ahead.
Everyone thinks so, but I would never say it. You know what I want to do? I want to get it finished. The prize I want is victory for the world.
The 45th President of the United States.
Waging war on corruption. It's
Alex Jones.
Since yesterday, I have had two of the InfoWars researchers culling the internet of just the last 2 weeks from mainstream news, Democratic Party statements, you name it. And I said, put together all the threats against the president, his family, against free speech, calls for his family to be kidnapped, raped, murdered, calls for Rand Paul to be kidnapped, raped, murdered, his family's intestines strewn around their house, the arrests that were made over that, Rob Reiner saying we're in a civil war, Michael Moore saying it's time to have 1 million people surround the Capitol and then overthrow Trump, Alan Dershowitz saying that at parties in Martha's Vineyard, people say, get out of here, I'm going to stab you through the heart. Told Tucker Carlson that last night. There's so many of these reports. Rob Dew just walked in. He said, I don't know if I can have this for you today. And I went, what do you mean? You could get me 10 clips in an hour. He goes, we hadn't done research. We didn't even know. He goes, there's so much of it that this is a whole other story in and of itself. And see, that's what they've done. They've hit us with such saturation of muggings and violence and people getting shot and beat up and stabbed and drugged by cars and hot coffee dumped on them that there's like 50 cases a day that we know of, and generally for something to get politically reported, maybe 100 times more happening we don't know about. So here's what's happening. Democrats are running around, ramming people with cars, shooting them, beating them up, dragging with cars, dumping coffee on their heads, grabbing their mega hats, threatening to stab them in the chest, threatening to beat up my son at the airport. I didn't report that. That wasn't on the news. I mentioned it here. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy how crazy these people are. And I've even had things happen to my family this week that I can't get into on air yet. But let's just say this. I've had medical providers activate against us and literally start trying to get involved in my life because I'm Alex Jones. Like your family goes to the pediatrician, your family goes to a doctor, some family goes to a psychologist, and they say, Alex is bad, you got to get him. I mean, it's so cult-like that and they've all activated, and they're so crazy, and they really believe we're the enemy, and they're going completely insane. They believe it's their absolute right. And there's one unifying thing about these people. They are super, ultra stupid. They're the dumbest of the dumb, like the guy last week that called up a bunch of people in the State House and said, I'm coming to murder you, and don't try to come get me. And, of course, they had his caller ID and went and arrested him. And the guy has like an 80 IQ, it turns out, but he's a Democratic Party volunteer. They really believe we're these Nazis. They really believe we're trying to hurt the country. And they're being told this by the media. They're being told this, that this is how they're good and this is how they're pure. I mean, when they're online, mainline Democratic Party individuals with millions of followers are tweeting out last week from The Great Escape with Steve McQueen when Nazis are at a French cafe and the French resistance mows them down and they say, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is lucky this didn't happen to her. This is what we're going to start doing. And Twitter doesn't even sanction them. They say, hey, you're lucky. Next, we're going to start machine gunning you in cafes. Then some deranged guy with a 7-year beef in Maryland over a girl he reportedly stalked goes in and shoots 5 people in a newspaper. Turns out he was a liberal, by the way. And they turn that into Trump made him go do it. No, that was a 7-year lawsuit and beef. It's crazy. So like they seize on one thing, go, look, you're causing violence. Oh, look, you're bad. Meanwhile, Trump's saying we shouldn't be violent. We should be peaceful. And then they spin that as if we're the ones wanting violence. And then it gets worse. We're going to have, I told him, just go with what you've got. At the end of this hour, bring me what you've got. We'll air it later in the next hour. All these different clips and things of them calling for violence. But what's even crazier is, on the 4th of July, they had the Washington Post, the New York Times, so many publications, I couldn't even keep track of it, so I just ignored it. But it's in the hundreds. And then hundreds more yesterday saying, oh, Jones said there'd be a civil war. Didn't happen on July 4th. He's crazy. Here's the article of the Washington Post. Document cam shot, please. A short history of Alex Jones claiming that the left is about to start a civil war. And see, this is me actually being proven right starting about a year and a half ago, saying, look, they want to overthrow the government. They want a civil emergency. They want to slowly increase the riots until they finally get a catalyst point so that when there's a major uprising, it overwhelms the country, the borders collapse, the UN has to come in. That's what Soros and the UN are saying. That's what they're doing in Europe with the giant migrant waves. That were 10 million. Now they're saying it's going to be 20 million, then 50 million. This is all being announced. Austria, Hungary have joined forces. They're putting up emergency walls. They're already seeing numbers hitting that were worse than the migrant crisis at its peak in 2016 in Europe. You know, the giant snakes of millions of people coming in. It's on. They are seeing waves at least as big or bigger. One report out of Macedonia was people screaming Allah Akbar, climbing the fence, was 5 times the previous record numbers. And Soros has ships coming across doing it. So here it is, a short list, a history of Alex Jones claiming that the left is about to start a civil war. So they're all, Rob Reiner says we're in a civil war. Michael Moore says rise up, surround the Capitol, throw Trump out. Full page ads, New York Times. Antifa says rise up. They're attacking people that try to have prayer vigils anywhere in the country, in any blue city. Christians can't even have demonstrations in America with these monster authoritarians. And then they spin it all over the news saying, I said the North versus the South. That's what they put in all these articles. In blue and gray uniforms are going to line up in the battle, you know, that starts in Virginia. Well, this is a totally new world, hundreds of years later, and I'm talking clearly about what they're doing. They spin it and they go, oh, where's the Civil War? Well, there were increased attacks all over the country that you called for. And we're going to go over them. But that's how dumb they think their viewers and listeners and readers are. It's also on TV. Misdirecting the reality. When, in truth, it was USA Today and everybody last week that said we're already in a civil war. USA Today, a civil war has already begun. USA Today. America, an emerging soft civil war, a term I coined, by the way. They're just using, not giving me credit, it's fine. Washington Times. New American Civil War. RT. Congressman warns we're in a civil war. Meanwhile, it all starts. I mean, we know of hundreds of attacks the last few days, massively escalating on July 4th. And then they turn around and go, we're not attacking. Don't run. We are your friends. Just like Mars attacks. They came in peace. CNN is not the enemy of the American people. We love the American people. And then they stab you in the gut. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The American people.
Receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
I'm Alex Jones, and this is the syndicated radio/TV global transmission, also simulcast on the internet via Infowars.com/show and many other platforms. The reason I mention that is I notice more and more in the news, they call me the internet radio host, Alex Jones, when I've been on AM and FM radio stations since 1996, and I'm on over 260 radio stations, and now I've lost count. It's over 400 TV stations now and approaching 100 cable systems. But see, they hate what they see as the credibility of that. That's why they're trying to shut us down. But I got some really good news the last few days, but the lawyers have asked me not to talk about it, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But let's just say we're having some major victories against the globalists right now on many, many fronts. Now, let me stop right there. I have information here in my hand that is so incredible that I'm going to wait till the next segment to cover it, because it actually makes me have to catch my breath and start having a little anxiety attack. And I haven't had anxiety attacks except when my children are being born. So I'm not a guy that has a lot of anxiety. I've got what you could call pretty good nerves, close to nerves of steel. And such momentous things are happening and going on right now that I don't feel worthy to even talk about it. I mean, that's what I'm saying is I get butterflies. I'm having trouble breathing right now. Because we're here. This is the global flashpoint. This is a lot bigger than America. This is a lot bigger than anything else happening in our lives. I'm having a feeling right now 2 or 3 times stronger than when I watched my wife get cut open and our daughter be born. She had some complications 14 months ago in a cesarean. You know, that same feeling when you're watching your wife be sliced open. It's not a scared feeling. You're about to see your baby for the first time. You're worried about her. It's just so intense. But you know, you're there. They want you to watch. You're going to do it. Be a man. But you're just get this over with. You see, but see, my wife and the doctors just had to go through that, and the nurses. We're all in this. We're all going through this now together. And if you don't feel it, if you don't see it, there's something wrong with you. And evil and all its stupid minions are throwing their attacks now at humanity. And this is a spiritual war, a cultural war. This is it for the whole future of the planet. I'm going to get into it when we come back. The media spins it like Trump did something bad, and boy, is he right. We'll see what happens. They're not willing to come out against America openly in the new trade war, but they kind of backhandedly, in the main, there are a lot attacking Trump, but that's 10% or so of the mainstream articles. 70, 80% have gone with the attack of just, well, is he wrong? Well, we'll see. It's causing problems. Boy, you know, is it right that China has a $900 billion deficit with us? When it's cut and dry that our country's been under a trade war by the globalists running China for 50 years, they've transferred most of our wealth to a communist dictatorship, and now China has released documents. It's mainstream news, it's confirmed, of their plan to strangle the U.S. economically and then militarily strike hot wars in third world arteries that supply the U.S., cutting off our supply lines, and then fomenting political control inside the United States. And then, if there's any resistance, standing up and attacking U.S. forces. That's a term, standing up forces and attacking. And they order the stand-up of their forces in thousands of Chinese companies around the world who are really Chinese military people with intelligence officers over them to prepare their sabotage forces. We are completely infiltrated. It's just red-level attack. And then all the left in Hollywood are attacking America at the same time. Bring down Trump, kill him, kill his family. And China has execution centers, mobile execution vans, killing Christians by the millions. One-child policies, 50-something dead million children, millions of Buddhists harvested. Imagine a horror movie where a country's harvesting millions, harvesting them. And the left's like, yeah, we'll harvest you. Death to America. Woo, woo. As if all you idiots are going to get jack diddly squat once we go down. And let me tell you, despite Trump's amazing defense and everything, he's got such crap under him in D.C., such slugs, such cowards, that he's fighting a 10-front war against the Vatican and the radical Islamicists and the corrupt, unelected EU and the Chi-Coms and the mega banks and Hollywood and just all the trash and losers and brainwashed scum and filth and idiots. And all the candy-ass men that think they're tough, that always hedge their bets in D.C., thinking Trump will lose, so they got feet in both camps. Which, if this goes down, most of them have sold us out already and have already got their escape plans. Because they have no soul. They have nothing. They're just empty people. So when I come back, I'm going to get into it. It's mainstream news. China's military reforms to win a war and overtake the U.S. revealed in leaked memo. But it's not the headline they give you. Actually read the memo. It's how they've already done it to us. But at the last minute, we're fighting back. We're waking up. China is now freezing our port shipments. We knew that was coming. All because we've been under a trade war for 50-plus years. We had over half the wealth then. Now we have a fraction of that. It's all been transferred out. And then Trump goes, no, you're at $900 billion now. deficit total. 500 plus billion in goods, 300 billion conservatively in intellectual property. Stop it. Stop it. Cut. And they didn't stop it. So he said, okay, boom, let's go. We're going to war. Because we've been under attack. They're the ones we're already in a war. And then we finally try to fight back at our 11th hour when Hillary was going to come in and complete the sellout. Obama transferred the personnel office management files of our entire intelligence operations. We've been blown wide open. We are in a complete war, and you idiots don't join with the Republic. You fools out there that sit there and hate this country and buy into Hollywood crap and your trendy BS out of Rolling Stone run by Soros and all these enemies have no idea what schmucks you are because you're not going to get anything out of this. You've just been trained your identity is bringing America down, but what you're bringing down is 1,000 times better than what you're bringing in, you fools. We come back. I'm going to break it all down. America's darkest hour. We're here, but we're fighting back, at least in our darkest hour.
Living in